Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Israel Explained. In the previous episode, we talked about Trump's plan to relocate the population of Gaza to somewhere or other. And since then, a lot of people have pointed out that there are problems with this plan. It has very few specifics, and therefore, the administration has been backtracking. Trump said just today there's, quote, no rush to do anything. And he said that the security would be supplied by Israel. They'll be the ones to watch it in terms of security, kind of removing some of the responsibility and raising a lot of questions. This is going to be an annexation of the territory where Israel protects it. Interesting questions abound. So while the administration is backtracking and not clear about what its plans are, Israel is trying to come up with very clear, formulated plans for this eventuality. Bloomberg had an article out today, and they reported that Israel was already looking at the logistics of clearing out as many people from Gaza as possible. They identified a pathway. There would be buses going to either the Ramon airport, which is an international hub some 250 kilometers away in Israel's southern desert, or to the Ashdod seaport, an hour's drive up the Mediterranean coast. That, according to a source in the IDF, who told Bloomberg about what their plans are. The amount of buses is being examined, and so on, so forth. As this plan has come more to not fruition, but examined more seriously by the IDF, some people in the army have objected to it. The head of Amman, that's military intelligence, said that he believes just the debate over this plan could cause unrest in the West Bank, which is already on the verge of security explosion anyway. But Israel Katz, the defense minister, reprimanded him publicly and said, quote, there won't be a reality where IDF officers express opposition to Trump's important plan, end quote. In other words, the Israeli defense establishment is to pursue this seriously, relentlessly, and with no objections, despite the fact that a lot of people have problems with it, not just on an ethical standpoint, but also on a strategic and logistical level. Experts think that this can't be done, at least not in the way that Trump is talking about. Ahmed Fuad Al-Khatib, who's a resident fellow at the Atlantic Council, said, quote, the idea of the United States taking over the Gaza Strip is so clearly unfeasible that it can't be credibly regarded as an option anytime soon. Aaron David Miller, former negotiator for the State Department, said it is, quote, the craziest and most destructive proposal in U.S. diplomatic history, end quote. The two main problems are that Egypt and Jordan are not on board, to put it mildly. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said that Egyptians would likely take to the streets in opposition. And indeed, there would be a lot of domestic turmoil regarding any Egyptian involvement in what they view as ethnic cleansing and a crime against the Palestinian people. But there's also security issues as well. Egypt does not want a lot of people from Gaza who support the Islamic Brotherhood, who are the rivals of al-Sisi and his authoritarian military government. And of course, Hamas are a terrorist organization, and many people in Gaza support them or are members of Hamas, so he doesn't want that either. Meanwhile, Jordan faces a lot of the same problems, but they also face another problem, a demographic problem. Egypt has a large population. If some Palestinians went there, it wouldn't change all that much. But in Jordan, it's a smaller country, and there's a demographic balance between Hashemites and Palestinians. The Palestinians are already the majority, and therefore some elements in the Israeli right and the American right refer to Jordan as the Palestinian state. The Hashemite government is concerned that if more Palestinians come, it would feed into that narrative and change the demographic balance to their detriment, thereby loosening the Hashemite hold on the government. So these are kind of existential security issues for Egypt and Jordan, and therefore it's hard to imagine how the U.S. could possibly bully them into accepting, and certainly Israel could not. There's also the question of whether Gazans want to leave. A poll taken early in the war said that a third of all residents of Gaza want to leave. The percentage is certainly higher now because the people of Gaza have suffered quite a lot. But they don't want to leave at all costs. They want to leave to a country where they feel comfortable. They want good conditions. They want healthcare. They want education. If they're not going to have good conditions, they'd rather stick it out in Gaza and try to make best with the situation that they have. That's at least from anecdotal evidence of what a lot of Palestinians are saying on social media, telling their friends, so on, so forth. Either way, there will be plenty of Gazans who want to stick it out no matter what is offered. What the percentage is, I can't say, but it would be at least a quarter, a third, a significant amount. They would have to be driven out by force. The U.S. has already ruled out, or Trump has ruled out, using his troops for that, but Israel may be willing to do so. There are other problems with this plan. The reconstruction timeline. It is believed that rebuilding Gaza would cost $50 billion. That's what the UN believes. And that it wouldn't be done until 2040. Also, the government infrastructure of Hamas would have to be replaced. Israel would have to do that. They have not been able to do that until now. So if it's so unfeasible, why am I talking about it? Why are people still talking about it? There is an element of this that appeals to Israel to reduce the population of Gaza as much as possible. The logistics of removing the entire population seem to be far-fetched, but if Israel could get a few 100,000 people out of there, which should be easy because there's a lot of people who really want to leave, they will do so. That is probably what Israel Katz is planning right now. That also increases the motivation Israel has to use military pressure. And we see that the delegation that was sent to Qatar to negotiate the next step of the ceasefire wasn't given a mandate to talk about Phase B. And Bezalel Smotrich seemed to be very confident that there wouldn't be a Phase B, more confident than he's seen before. There is a chance that what Israel's planning is an escalation in Gaza, with the goal being not so much to remove Hamas as much as to get as many Palestinians as possible to leave, while they hope that Trump will diplomatically arrange for a place that will take as many Palestinians as possible. And for that end, Israel is planning the logistics of a removal to various airports, various ports. That seems to be what's happening now. So the very ambitious plan of the United States taking over, Gaza being rebuilt, the entire population being removed, it becoming a Riviera, that seems very unlikely. But the likelihood of Israel increasing military pressure on Gaza in order to try to get people to leave and trying to hope that the United States will find a place for these people to go is very likely, and that is what Israel is planning right now. Okay, so that's the end of this episode. If you like what I do here, consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, consider signing up for my Substack. I put out my first Substack article. I'm putting those out every week. And my history podcast. New episode of the History of Land of Israel podcast came out today about Hezekiah's reforms in Judah. So stick with me, stick with this channel, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'll be here again very soon.